Okay, we're back. Let me refresh restream, make sure everything's working now. Okay, we're back. That was annoying. What is the draft group for this game? 112776. Where is that? 12776. Oh, I feel like an idiot. But that's fine. A little classical. Mix it up. Nice thing about classical music is it's all DMCA free. Alright, let's try this again. So let's go get these projections up. I don't have the update. I know like there's a couple lineups. I think the Angels lineup was updated. There's a couple others that I don't have. That's okay. Alright, and then we fix these two guys. So 2, this is actually 5. 4. Let's try this. So he's actually 8. Okay. Save. I'm still finishing up projections here. Oops. It's gotta be this one, right? And this one. Alright, so I'm going to show today all of our... We've really changed a lot with all of our sims. So I had been working for a while on not really a genetic algorithm, but it's a genetic algorithm adjacent. The real big difference is we're not mutating lineups from one generation to another. What's going on, S Golf Bro? So I'll show you in a second what I mean by that. But if you've seen my streams that show how I do small slates, you should have a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about, because oh man, Google, come on, you're killing me. Basically just automating that process of simulating multiple fields over and over for you, and giving you a lot more control over how we're ranking lineups, how many lineups to keep between iterations. So let's pull up. Alright, and go here. Okay, so I'm about to post DraftKings projections for today, and then I'll get FanDuel up. Save. These will be updated with the actual lineups here in a bit. So let's go ahead and post these. So DraftKings is up, and FanDuel. Let's get that taken care of. Where's my FanDuel? Okay, let's do that. That's not what I wanted. Where did my restream window go? There we go. Okay, there we go. We got the chats up. Okay. So that's posted. Then we're gonna go back to here, do this. I'm just gonna get top stacks up for us, so we can use the actual stack percentages. Let's go ahead and Angels. So it gets Walker Buehler Angels over Yanks, huh? Yeah, I can see it. My game simulation model has not loved, but been higher on the Angels than the market has all year. They haven't. I mean, they're kind of like, I don't know. They don't have Ohtani. They don't have Trout, so not much talent. But the young talent they have hasn't been. I mean, it's been bad, but it hasn't been as bad. It feels like as recent years for them. And I actually do like some of their young players. You know, Zach Neto is still hitting, I think, like 300 right now. He's doing really well this year, so I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Finish. FanDuel is about to be posted at sale ownership. Let's do that. Yeah, this is better. Let's go ahead and put this in. Okay, putting up FanDuel. So now let's get top stacks done. For DraftKings, that's running. This is enthralling television, I'm sure. Let's go like that. My DraftKings stuck? What's going on here with my Sims? Why did this stop running? Did I break something? What the heck? Looks okay. Why did it stop running? Let's try that again. Did it throw an error on me? I can't believe this just happened right now. I don't know the last time that I've actually had a baseball job fail on me. C cloud function. What am I looking at? Medium, probably. So Dodge was the popular stack, huh? Yeah. Okay. So weird. It just broke on me. Let's get these in. Then we're going to get to our stacks, figure out the ownership. Okay, there's that. And here comes DraftKings. That, and then we're gonna do a little bit of this. All right, and then one last thing, and then I'll get I'll have the top stacks done. So we need to go to that. So what is the first game tonight? It's Phillies Jays, right? That looks like it. So here, run it. And here. Alright, top stacks are posted, so we are ready to go. Sorry about that. Okay. So what we're gonna do now, we got our moonshot open. We're on dev now. Our dev build. So we got these new settings over here on the right? Simulations per field generation, number of generations, lineup holdover percentage, keep user lineups, just a yes/no toggle, and lineup scoring weights. So, like I was saying earlier when I was working on the projections, we're moving for the Sims. We're moving towards a genetic algorithm type of sim solution. So instead of just simulating one field and calling it a day and just finding the top ROI lineups, what we're doing is we're allowing you to run multiple sims. So create multiple fields, run multiple sims, and we're also allowing you to decide how many lineups you want to keep between sims. So, like if you're sorting by ROI or whatever, you can keep the top X% of lineups and keep them into the next sim. And we're also letting you set what metric you're going to use to sort these lineups, right? So we have this lineup scoring weights. Right now, the default is always just ROI, 100% ROI. We're actually letting you now change all these, so you can see the tooltips. Little small writing, but like here's the geo mean for ownership, win percentage, top 1% finishes, projection. So you could do something like you want it to be weighted towards ROI, but you don't want to take two under projected lineups, right? So you might say 25% projection, and you want lineups that finish high. So you say 25% top 1% finishes. So what this done is this becomes like a weighted average of all these outputs. And then we use that to actually sort your lineups and decide which ones to keep. And then on the output, you'll be able to see those scores and We don't have it set up right now, but the player and team filter will be, make sure I get this in, will use that lineup score instead of just ROI. So you have a little more control now about choosing what's the best lineups for you. And there really is no best answer for what the best lineups are. Did I just break it again? I think I just broke it again. Let me try refreshing. So over here, you have this paintbrush. This is a better way to do it. If you have an issue with a job, this paintbrush on the upper right, you just click on that, clear the data, it'll reset it for you like this. Then we go back, we find today's slate. Let's do the moonshot. That's a good 8,000 lineup contest. It's a good one to kind of show off the multiple generations. And let's try importing again and see if I just completely broke it again. So we're going to go ahead and use projection value. Oh, yeah, I can get you the projections. Yeah, it's I just posted it in the Discord as well. I see, baby. And for NFL starting tomorrow, when we launch all of our NFL stuff, all the projections will be baked in to the sim and optimizer, so you won't have to like load them from a Google Sheet. Now you can bring in your own projections still, but all our projections will be just on the draft group, and those will be in Thursday morning, probably Wednesday night. There's a little bit of work left to be done on updating, making sure the draft groups are updated with the correct players. You know how it can be, making sure the names are right. But anyway, so here we have our projections are in now for baseball. We have our stock settings. This is good for most flagships of about 10 to 20,000 lineups, 5 generations, 50,000 sims per generation. I leave the holdover percent at 5. I was explaining this earlier, but what happens is if you bring over too many lineups, so you know there's no real best way to do this, but the more lineups you bring over between generations of sims, or between fields if you want to call it that, the more your field is diluted from or polluted from like what the expected ownerships are. So let's say, for example, you set this to like 50%, right? You're bringing 50% of the top 50% of lineups, according to my lineup scoring. We're bringing those over between field generations. Then let's say that in those 50%, Kyle Harrison just sims really well today for whatever reason. He's got a high standard deviation or whatever. Okay, and he ends up in 50% of the top 50% lineups. And now, in our expected ownership for him, he's at 4% of ownership. But in our top lineups now he's 50%. And so we'd expect in that new field his ownership would be like 29%. He'd be way oversampled in this new contest field between sims. And then what will probably happen is all the lineups with him would drop off, and then maybe they'd come back later on. But anyway, I just want to make that point that in general, we don't want to set this too high. Now, there's also the case to be made that you could set this to like 10 generations, 100,000 sims, and keep all your lineups, and you're essentially doing 1 million sims of the same lineups. But anyway, the GUI might help explain a little more what I'm talking about. So again, in dev, we have these stack settings. So we can just download the team stack template. I can go ahead and make a little Google sheet so I can show you what I'm doing. So this is our template. You'll have this tomorrow in prod for MLB, so you guys can start using this. So we'll just bring over my top stacks. Oops, that was stupid. So here's our top stacks from the sheet. And all we need to do, we have Seattle, Milwaukee, Oakland, Yankees, blah, blah. You just copy these in, right? Whole numbers. Whole numbers, not it should make a difference, but always safer just doing whole numbers here. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on my downloaded team stack. So do that. Yeah, no kidding. Big DFS. Okay, so let's go ahead and just run this thing. Well, first we got to import our spreadsheet. So here we go. Got all our teams in here. And let's click run and cross our fingers and hope this thing runs. So with the new site, you don't have to stay on the results page. It's just running in the background. This auto pops up for you. You can close out of it by clicking this X button, but I want to show you kind of some of the GUI messages here. And then if you just go back to Sim Opto, it takes you right back to where you were. Has your projections in still. All your same configs are set. See, your stacks are still set. If we had added lineups, we would have them in here. It was just all the job state, I guess you would call it, is saved, right? So anyway, so now let me go ahead and zoom in on this GUI. So we've seen all these before. If you've used AceMind, you have all these team stacks. So all of our lineups are good. And now we're on to the first field. So what it's doing, it's going to be nice and quick. It's generated our contest field. There's 7,927 lineups in the moonshot today. You can see up here. We've got 7,924 unique lineups. So now it's running our sims. This will take about the first field is always going to be the slowest. So like that's something to keep in mind for NFL. If you're simulating the large contests, you're going to want to kind of turn down the number of generations. And we also have something that keeps track of the amount of time between field sims, and it kind of decides for you whether or not we have a 10-minute limit on these functions. It decides for you whether or not it's going to try to run another sim. But anyway, this will take about 30 seconds or so to get through one field. So there we go, done. Now it's kept the top 5% by ROI. If we look back at my settings here on the right, I just left my scoring weights by default, so it's only looking at ROI here. So you can kind of read the tooltip, what it's doing. I can go in a little more detail about how the sorting works, but for now, like the tooltips, I think are a pretty decent example. I could also do some kind of like table examples on a different stream if people are interested in seeing how it works. Yeah, so we said 50,000 sims, 5 fields or 5 generations, and keeping the top 5% of lineups. So here we go. We're on to the next field. Chris Sale 64% own is crazy. I mean, I get it. It's the Rockies. That's crazy. Especially with a slate with Skeens and Castillo, too. Like, these aren't complete gas cans out here. Even some of these guys in the 7Ks aren't too bad. Anyway, so we're on field 3. And the other thing, too, is, like, I mean, these flagships will take 4 to 5 minutes now for 5 fields. That's something to keep in mind. So these functions, like you could set this to 1. If you did this right here, 1 generation, 50,000 sims. This is like what AceMind prod is now. We're just doing 1 field, 50,000 sims of it, and I mean the weights don't even matter at that point. They would matter on the output, as you'll see once this is done running. But yeah, this would be like default AceMind prod, and this would be like if you're simming these giant NFL contests. Let's look 1 or 2. I know there's one with like 900,000. I don't even think we're going to load that one because it's kind of pointless to simulate a contest that large. Let's see, September 8th. Like if you're simming the play action, 200,000 entries, it'll sim for you. Well, it'll get through at least 1 field and maybe even 2. But beyond that, that's asking for a lot. Now, what might be an interesting strategy would be, what if you just did 50,000, or actually, let's say for this 200,000 entry contest, you did 10,000 sims and 2 generations or 3 generations. So you lessened the amount of sims overall, but you're kind of holding over about 5%, so a decent amount of lineups. And now you get your top lineups out of that, and you bring it back into a different sim that you can sim more generations of, for example. That's another way to use this. So we're almost done here with these. True, true. Yeah, Mariners. Remember at All-Star break, it was like they had the best pitching staff. They're like the old Giants, the best pitching staff ever, and horrible hitting. Now they can't. Now they're all kind of getting lit up. But Gilbert was the chalk yesterday, and the A's did pretty well against him. Yeah, Shea Bangaliers. Yep. I love that A's team. I mean, it sucks that they're moving away from Oakland because I love Butler and Rooker. Rooker's such a stud. And Lawrence Butler has been awesome too. I've got a lot of fun young players right now. All right, so here we go. 310 seconds for five generations, 50,000 sims, about 8,000 lineup contests. That's not too bad. MLB is definitely the slowest at generating lineups because of the stacking. Like if we were to turn stacking off or turn, it would be much faster. But here we go. So let's go ahead and I'll zoom out, get the whole thing in so we can see what's happened here. We have our, and this thing I believe, yeah, this hasn't been updated yet. On the right, we'd see lineup score. I'll go ahead and download this and upload it so you guys can see all the columns we have now. There are some missing ones here at the end. But this is our new exposure screen. So if I was playing, if you're playing one lineup, you just click on, it would just bring you back the top one lineup, right? It's this Freeland, Chris Sale, oh my God, Freeland. Then we get a Seattle Mets stack, 5-3. That's the best lineup from those 5 generations. Or fields, or whatever you want to call them. Yep, same process for FanDuel. I can show that too if you want. But so when you're on this screen, 150. Let's just see what our 150 is. We get a ridiculous amount of Chris Sale. His protection is just too good. A lot of Brewers, it looks like. Who are the Brewers playing against today? We'll bring this over so I can check it. Let's go projection. That's a better way to do it. Oh, Civale. No, not who are they playing? Who's the pitcher for St. Louis? Oh, Steven Matz. Oh, okay, that's why. Okay. So let's see what else. So we also have min uniques now, so you can. I mean, this is just another quick filter, making sure you get more diversity in your lineups. Something that I didn't note that I should about MLB. So when I went in and when we went in and updated all these sims to do this multi-field stuff, I also looked at all of the way that the sims were working, and kind of like because what we're doing when like SaberSim or Stochastic or other competitors, what they're doing when you give them a projection is they've already run all of their sims in the background, and they're using like but their simulated distribution of outcomes for players, right? And then all that. Let's say that I had a 15 projection on Willy Adames, and their projection was 10. Then if I gave them a 15 fantasy point score, all they're doing is they're taking that distribution and just shifting it to the right by 5 points, right? And I mean, it's definitely valid to do it that way, and you're getting it's good in my opinion for kind of like a little micro just correlations, I suppose, between, like, for showdowns, for example. There's a case to be made that that's the best way to do it. But first of all, those models are black boxes, so you don't really understand what they're doing. They don't tell you what they're doing. And second of all, like, when you're shifting a distribution by that much, all of a sudden William Adames' min would have been 0, and now it's like shifted over 5 points, right? And so what we're doing when we generate these distributions is we're taking your inputted projections to standard deviations, and then we're converting these to, gosh, I'd have to look at it now, but I think I switched them to log normal, but they might still be gamma. I'd have to look. But anyway, we're generating these distributions for you on the fly, given your inputs. And if you have any familiarity with probability distributions, you know that hitters aren't normal distributions, right? They're hard hard, lots of zeros, and then they kind of like tail. It's like a right tail. And for pitchers, it's more normal, but for hitters, it's like that. It's a kind of a weird exponential shape, I suppose you could call it, or an inverted exponential. Anyway, so something that I think Nate Noling, I think it was him, noticed was that sometimes the tail end of distributions for certain hitter, not every hitter, but some hitters and some teams, when we applied correlations to the distributions, like some of these lower end players here, like Kevin Newman is a good example, or Kevin Kiermaier, who doesn't really have the same upside as obviously Mookie Betts, but when we applied the correlations to him, the right tail on his distribution would get out far enough to where our sims would favor him. So we'd end up with situations where our sims would be overweight on, especially like, what's the term? Leverage stacks. So, like a great example today would have been Chris Sale, 64% own, high projection. Our sims previously would have really pushed Rockies, I bet. I mean, maybe not, because clearly my sims like Chris Sale too. But in general, my sims were pushing, first of all, for lower order hitters to be in the top lineups, and for leverage stacks, or kind of like lower owned stacks, to be up towards the top in terms of ROI. And now I've adjusted that a lot. I've done a lot of work on it, and now I feel pretty good about where these sims are at. So like if we look at Milwaukee and Seattle, I have them both as like the two of the highest leverage, with them with the Yankees, right? And if we sort here, I'm going to screw up the FanDuel sorting, but here's my 4 best stacks, right? And now look at this. Milwaukee and Seattle are my 2 best stacks by far, right? And it's purely because I think we look at the ownership. Yeah, the ownership on them compared to the Dodgers and the Yankees, pretty significant. So, and actually, I can even test this. I could show this to you if you were to run this in prod with my same stack ownership here. I would almost guarantee that we'd end up with some of these lower owned stacks, like Oakland. Not that Oakland's not even a bad play today. But so it's worth noting for tomorrow when we push this MLB stuff live, I'm pretty happy and confident with our sims, especially now. And that is the huge advantage, I think, for a lot of our stuff is open source. You can find all of our work on GitHub. I'm pretty sure I've pushed the MLB changes for this to GitHub. I haven't pushed a multi-field. I think we're just going to leave it to be single field for the GitHub stuff. But anybody can kind of come in and check our work, right? And see that what we're doing is right. Yeah, yep. Should be super time efficient. So I guess actually you can do a small FanDuel today and just show how quick this is. So let's go ahead and go to FanDuel. What about late swap? So we won't have it for baseball. For football, for NFL, I am aiming to have it done. Let's sim the home run, 1,000 entries. It's not a guarantee lock. It's not a guarantee that I'll have it done for week 1. But I'll have it done for sure week 2. And I'm going to really try I'm going to have some dummy lineups in the Thursday all-week contest, and I'll be using that to kind of test out late swap to make sure it works. And if you remember, last year we had the live leaderboard for the Millie Maker for football, and we can use the same framework, we think, to do late swap. So you'll be able to see like your live line, kind of like our NFL late swap, NBA late swap, if you've used that, where you can see your live lineup equity. We should be able to have that as well, but we need to test it, and it's going to be really tricky for the huge entry contest, right? The million entry $5 DraftKings they have today. Okay, so I loaded in FanDuel same way, Clay. If you didn't see that. And this is a 1,000 entry contest, so we can go ahead and just. I think we set the upper limit at like 25 generations. We don't need to do that many, but you can go that high. Just be cognizant of how long these take, and we might even put like a little. It's tricky because a lot of it depends on your settings and the ownership, but we might put a little like estimated time per field or generation So we'll leave the top 5%, and let's go ahead. The tough thing is, like, I can't really show what this is doing. I'd have to show you like a pet example. I can do it like in Excel maybe. Let's go ahead and just say I want to be worried about ROI, but I also want to make sure that we're getting high-end projection lineups in here. So let's go 70-30. Let's go 70, 15-15, right? So 70% ROI, 15% projection focus, 15%. Where can you find the updated GitHub for MLB? I'll post a link when I kick this job off. So, where's my downloads? And we're going to go there. Oh, wait. I don't have the... let me pull in the stack ownership. Where's my team stack config? So I'm doing the same thing I showed earlier of just basically copy and pasting the team and stack ownership into name and value on the stack template. So we'll go ahead and I'll show you guys here. This name and value, I just take from our projections, team and stack own is what goes in here for the team stack settings. So then you just drag and drop, or you can navigate to the file, bring them in, and these values probably aren't correct for only 1,000 lineup contest. Probably you want to boost up the higher end stacks here, but it's okay. I'm just showing how this works. So we'll go 10 generations, 50,000 per. We change these weights. We'll go ahead and click run. And while that's running, so GitHub. Let me pull up the GitHub for you. I don't know if I have updated it for... I will definitely have an update in at some point this week if I haven't updated it already. But here is the link to... Let me see. So I have not updated MLB. But here is the link to the main one. It's Chan's... How do I get to his... There we go. Okay, so here's the link to the GitHub. I will post a update for it. So I'm gonna pretty much the only change I'm gonna make is in the GPP simulator. There's a function called like run simulation for game or something. That's what's gonna get updated, and it'll have our updated distribution logic. But another thing I was gonna show are these new columns. So our home plate is simming right here. Let's go ahead and make a blank spreadsheet. Import. We're gonna upload. I think this was the one, yeah. So 14,000. So you can already see this is a big sheet, and that's because we have 5 different fields of 8,000 lineups. Now we don't give you the results of each field individually. Might do it in the future, but what you get at the end is kind of like the aggregate of all the lineups that were generated across all 5 fields, and then kind of their aggregate statistics. All right, so let's bring in this so I can show you guys. This is going to take a minute. Here we go. So here's all the lineups, right? We got a ridiculous amount. I think I said... So we got 39,000 unique lineups that we generated across all 5 fields. Okay? And these are all the standard things we just saw. So we have geomean now instead of ownership product. I can give a little primer on how geomean works, but it's just a simpler way to view your uniqueness of your lineup without having to look at ownership product. Here is here's the new ones, right? So we have, this is kind of a bad example for MLB because we made so many unique lineups, but we can filter down here and see these lineups. This Cleveland, Kansas City one, I'm assuming it's supposed to be decently owned. Yeah, decently owned. That's why it got generated multiple times. Actually, maybe it got kept. Nope. Maybe I did something to the fields kept. Anyways, so what this is saying here is just how many fields that this lineup was found in, right? And it's possible for a lineup to not be kept between fields. So like when I say kept, it's that holdover percentage, that 5% of lineups. So this lineup was basically uniquely generated twice, right? And you know that might just tell you that it's a pretty high ownership sum lineup. So all of these are over 1 point. So I think these are supposed to be times 100. But anyway, so this just shows you how many fields this lineup showed up in. This fields kept doesn't seem like it's. I think I messed something up on the output. I'll have to check this. But what this would show you is, and actually it is kind of strange that we should see 5 fields here. But anyway, so like, assuming this was working correctly, you would see 5 fields. You would see up to 5 fields, so 4 fields here. So this tells you how many times a lineup was held over from one generation to the next. And then we have our lineup score here. So this is the output of that lineup score that I showed earlier. So we could sort, and if you just sort on ROI, it's the same sort. And again, this Kyle Freeland, Chris Sale lineup was our number 1. This Seattle Mets lineup, a lot of Seattle, a lot of Milwaukee. But let me show you. So okay, so this is done. I don't know. Now I'm nervous that this isn't going to work. Yeah, Nick, you could do it that way. Also, we still have the. Damn it. Okay, let me use an example from last night. If one of these lineups is the winning showdown lineup, then you guys owe me big time. We're all going to duplicate. So here's a showdown I ran last night when I was testing our showdown. Let me pull this up on screen for you guys. Clay, let me know if you had any questions about FanDuel, about that output or anything, because I'm gonna block the window for a second. Where is it? I think is it window capture? Yeah. Okay. So here's. Okay, if everybody can see that now, this is showdown. This is a showdown I simmed last night. I'd be mad if my known fields didn't work. Did I only do 1 field? Let's try. Actually, wait. Let's try this one. There we go. Okay. Wrong one. Let me remove this one. Oh, I think I just removed. Let's go back here. I hope. Let me close out of this thing. Let me check, make sure. There we go. Okay. All right. So Nick, you were asking about the user-generated stuff. So we still have the generated and Opto, and if I had imported lineups into this showdown, the Opto would still show first, right? So like, if you remember back in the small field, how I play small field video about how you can just use the fact that we always just keep your optimized or your imported lineups. We call them Opto, but your imported user lineups, we keep them in the same order that you imported them, and so it would still show here as Opto for however many you brought in. But also, what I really wanted to show here, we have this Mahomes. This is the $1 million first. That's why these ROIs are so high. But you also probably noticed that they aren't as high as they used to be. We have this Mahomes, Lamar, Zay Flowers, Xavier Worthy, Justin. So just a really gross 2-4 Chiefs lineup that grades out well, probably because it's just so contrarian to play. Mahomes and the Ravens defense together, and to do a Mahomes captain with one receiver. But Mahomes can do it because he can run the ball. But what I really wanted to show here is, here's our num field. So I simulated this contest 5 times. So we have all these lineups with 5. These guys were in every single field that we sim. So it just, I mean, with Showdown, you're going to see this a lot more often because you end up, I mean, there's only a certain amount of lineups you can build. There's like 200, 300,000 lineups you can build. And what I really wanted to show is, here's our fields kept. So now, like, let's look at our, so like this lineup here, this Mark Andrews lineup, actually never placed, even though it placed, I don't know what my settings were for this, but it never placed, I think I was messing around with the lineup score, but I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, we actually just randomly generated it 5 times and didn't keep it once, so it never placed in the top 5% of our generated lineups, right? Meanwhile, you can look at these 5-4s, so like this Mahomes one, all of these guys, all were kept. So the sim really likes them, right? Here's another that's just gross, like Lamar and the Chiefs defense. But again, like running quarterbacks against the opposing defense, it's not such a bad idea. Especially like if you're going to talk about how it's possible that this lineup could win, Mahomes, Xavier Worthy, Ravens defense. Well, Mahomes throws 2 picks, maybe a pick 6, right? And all of a sudden the Chiefs are behind, they're throwing the ball a lot, and now you have Mahomes running the ball maybe. They wouldn't quarterback sneak it, but he's run for touchdowns. So anyways, that's a unique build for sure, and if it hits, it's going to hit big, right? The average number of duplicates for this lineup we saw across all 5 sims was 2.6 dupes, so pretty low. That's why it grades out well. But anyway, I just wanted to show. Let's go back to baseball. We'll talk more about NFL tomorrow because there's a lot more to talk about there. I've changed a lot there with how the sims work, updated the correlations, updated the distributions, so a lot to talk about tomorrow. Now, if I can find the screen I was on, I think this is the one. Yeah, so let's go ahead and go back to our move our Excel. Okay, so FanDuel in this contest anyway. Oh yeah, we still have the click, like, right? We can click on players in our lineups, brings them up to the top. He's our focus player. 10% Alec Burleson in our top 20 for the home plate today. So you get 2 out of 20. I can do quick math. So all Chris Sale in that contest. If we expanded it out to 150, I don't think you can play 150 in this contest, but again, you're getting almost all Chris Sale. Who is Brewer Hicklin? I've never heard of that person in my life. Who in the world is that person? Where's my search? Here we go. Brewer. Is he just made up? Oh, a 2K outfielder. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, well, that explains that. So you get a lot, right? You're fitting Chris Sale. You got to pay somebody cheap. So you end up with Brewer Hicklin. And on FanDuel for this contest, here we get some more Oakland. Probably, I don't know how expensive they are, but again, Milwaukee and Seattle like the preferred stacks today. Not surprising. Kind of like Milwaukee against Steven Matz. I mean, man, remember Mets? You see here our secondary stacks as well. Kind of cool, in my opinion. We can see on DraftKings we'd have the 5 stacks filled out, and we can still see it here. So we do allow you to kind of isolate by stack length. You can see on our secondary stack length as well. Let's say you don't want a lot of Brewers 3 stacks. A good use case for the secondary stack thing would be like if you're fading Chris Sale, even though you're fading him, you may not want to play 3 stacks of the Rockies, right? Rockies today would probably be a 5 stack or bust, right? You're just hoping that Chris Sale just gets blown up. Because like a 3 stack, even with a 3 stack of the Rockies, let's say they had 3 solo home runs, Chris Sale could still strike out 10 batters and still be optimal. So yeah, Castillo's ownership, right? I think I saw that when we were messing around. Only 16. Not as much as Skeens. All right, so I think that'll be about wrap up today. Tomorrow we're gonna launch NFL sometime in the morning, early afternoon, and then I talked about it on Discord. But we are going to have a cocktail hour tomorrow, so like a little happy hour with me, Chan, and Trenchbomb, who does all of our UI stuff, and we'll be streaming and kind of going over all the new tools. We got a lot to announce for NFL aside from these new sim stuff. We got some pretty a super secret project that we've been working on that we think is gonna be pretty fun for people. So yeah, and also a lot to talk about with showdowns and with classic slates and how we're going to handle those, and again the late swap stuff as well. So, any questions before I go? What do you mean by geo-mean calculator, Clay? You can also just ask in Discord too. I can answer that if you have a question. So geo-mean, what you can do, I just leave it at the actual the raw geo-mean here, but you basically take it. This is going to make it sound complicated. You take it, the number of entries in the contest, and the number of lineups, or the number of players in a lineup, and you can. It's a better way to estimate how many duplicates you can expect to see for that lineup than just straight ownership product. Yeah, if you have any more questions about geo-mean, Clay, feel free to ask, and we'll answer that in Discord. Yeah, I think that's it. I think I'm going to log off. Good luck to everybody. I think we're rooting for the Mariners and the Brewers. I don't know what our prod stuff says, but that's what we're thinking in dev. So, good luck. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for